lot of youngsters these days are in this earth-shattering hurry to go independent, set up office, do X, Y, Z. Many times we get resumes of people and I see they work for 1 year in this office, 1 year in that office, 1 year, and then they want to apply to senior, and 1 year later they are looking at themselves setting up a chamber. So it doesn't work like that. I think it's like what my dad used to say about a car. He said you should keep a car for 5 years and then you need to change it. So if you really need to understand, learn and contribute in an office, you have to stay for at least 3 years to 4 years.
In the initial stages, I found it challenging because it was a new city. I was not used to it. I would drag myself into work late. Boss would call, hurry up, because she's from the same college as me, and say, where is that fellow? Why hasn't he come in? So it was winter, it was cold, I was under a kambal. And I'm like, really? You think he wants me there? Does he care? And so when I would land up, I think almost 2 months I was tardy. I was terrible.
I think your first 5 to 6, 7 years, I don't think you should look at work-life balance if you're serious about being a litigating lawyer, because there's much to learn, right? And they say law is a jealous mistress. They're absolutely right.
We look at this generation and say, you have mobile phones, you can call and say this matter is reaching, that matter is reaching. You have digital boards which tells you where it is, there's a passover, judge has risen. So for us, we had to do all this physically, run from court to court and figure out what is happening, where, get estimates, etc.
When I left this chamber and I went back to court for anything, I would realize that we had so many people who genuinely liked us. Right? And I didn't realize this because there were AoRs who briefed them, other co-counsels who always were kind to us. You know, because they saw us as juniors who were diligent or sincere or whatever it was.
You have to be seen, you have to be convivial, you have to be warm, you have to be all those things. Now, if you're not all of those things, then you have to be something else entirely, which is...
Hello and welcome to another episode of Law Vaarta's Litigation Talks series. Today I am joined by two senior advocates with whom I started my legal career, Gopal Sankaranarayanan, Haripriya Padmanabhan. So, ma'am, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having us, Shrutanjaya.
We'll start off by a quick recap into why both of you entered law and why you decided to take the law school exam and become a lawyer. So, whoever wants to start, ma'am. So
you took it earlier.
So I think personality-wise, I get bored very fast. And I think what litigation and law I envisioned, and rightly so, I think there's variety. It always keeps you engaged. And my dad started practicing very late in his life, and he practiced very briefly for a few years. And I used to find discussions of his cases very interesting. So I think that's what impelled me to do law, because I thought it gives me the sort of variety and the independence, which is something which is very important to me. So when I wanted to do my law in 1993, he was very clear. He said, there's National Law School. So if you get in there, you do law, otherwise no. Oh. Because he somehow believed that if I joined any other college, because lawyers were known for strikes and, you know, and protests, he genuinely thought that I would be right there, center front, protesting and not doing anything useful with my life. But yeah, so that's how I got to write the law school exam. I was very lucky that the exam was very easy. In 1993, it's nowhere near as tough as it was today. So I think that's why I got into law.
And you said your dad used to practice. Where was he practicing and what kind of work was he doing?
He did exclusively commercial law, company law. He practiced from about 88, 89 till about 98 for about 9 years. And then due to health reasons, he couldn't continue to practice and he had to give away his entire practice. So just when I was joining law practice, he gave up law.
I see. Sir?
Well, as a kid, I was prone to argue a lot with my family, with everybody else. So they used to keep making fun of the fact that he would argue so much, he should be a lawyer, etc. Came more, I think, as a joke than anything else. Eventually, a combination of, I think, being good in English, I used to score well in school, and being terrible in science and math. Which I regret now. I feel that I wasn't taught it. It's something that I would like to grasp, but it wasn't taught the right way. I eventually realized humanities was the only stream I could take. While I was in school in Bangalore, we had a couple of students of National Law School who we were local guardians for. So they used to be, we were their LGs as such. They were from out of Bangalore. So they would come on the weekends and hang with us and chat, etc. So it was the environment was always there about this college which is open in Bangalore, and smart people were there, so it was something that we were aware of. But eventually, I think it's only when I was doing my humanities in 11th and 12th that I seriously thought of taking that entrance exam. I didn't make it through the first time. I was just off by 0.5. I was on the waiting list. The guy above me got into law school. 4 of my dear friends in school who I had told about this, because in Delhi still it wasn't a thing. So
Where did you go to school?
in Bangalore, it was Bishop Cotton still 10th. 11th and 12th was at DPS RK-Puram. It was like a factory, like 1700 students only in 12th standard alone. And so the few friends that I told them, there's this really nice college, you should consider it, etc. And the funny part is, 1 humanities friend of mine and 3 science friends, all 4 of my batch, all 4 got into that small cohort in that batch of, eventually to become the batch of 2000. But then I did it again. I did a year of college, St. Joseph's in Bangalore, which I really loved. And then I did the exam again the next year and I got through.
What prompted you, other than the fact that you said people used to say you argue? Like ma'am said, somebody in the family to push.
Yeah.
Was there any such push in your family?
My mum had done law. She had an LLB degree in the early 70s. But she never practiced law. In the late 90s, late 80s, around 88 or 89, when my dad was in the services and all, she decided at this late age, she was, I think, almost close to 50, that she said she'll just go to court. She joined a law firm there and spent some time going to court, a couple of years, 2-3 years or so, and then stopped in 92. So that was well before I joined law school, only in 96. So that was the one encounter really from somebody in the family who was in law. My dad's dad had been a judge, but had passed away in 1956. So that's like 20 years before I was born. And there was no remnants of that. He was from Madras. So there was no connection, no link, no remnant. So I had no links either in Chennai, which was not a hometown for me, or Bangalore, which was my hometown, where there was law or there was family in the law.
Got it. In fact, when you were talking, I just, there's this criticism of modern law schools that they're usually full of elites, right? All 80 or all 120 or all how many ever people are chosen, they all come from a particular strata of society. And I'm just curious to know, when you went to law school, was it, would you criticize your batch in that manner, or do you think it was very, very diverse, or what do you think?
Not at all. My batch was very diverse. We had a lot of students from Karnataka and other places who were not at all from elite backgrounds, who were from very simple, humble families. And I think I had a great batch that way. And many were not from lawyers' families as well. And though technically my dad was a practicing lawyer at that point of time, I was not from a lawyer family in that sense. There was no advantage which one got from being part of that family. And we had a diverse background. We were not at all an elite batch in any manner. But I think what changed, and I saw this change when I was in law school itself, I think around my second or third year, the fees went up drastically. So we were a generation where I think I paid 12,000 for an entire year. I think suddenly 2 years later, they made it 25,000 for like 1 year or something. So I think the drastic increase in fee, I think thereafter only attracted people who could thereafter afford it.
Yeah.
But when I went initially, that was never a problem. I think the fees today, what the law schools charge, is possibly the reason why many people cannot afford it.
Right.
And I think we do need more scholarships like IDIA, what Shamnath Bashir started. I think we need more such programs to ensure that it's not really the monopoly of the elite to join these law schools, because the education is definitely good.
Yeah. Yeah. Was your experience similar? Because ma'am mentioned that it was about 2-3 years into college that the fees.
Look, I'll tell you, to be honest, when you join, right, and you have a lot of people from similar backgrounds of yours, who are, say, public school in urban cities and stuff like that, you're not going to realize that they are actually privileged. Right? When you were talking about privilege, you may talk about big industrialist families, big or influential politicians' families, and things like that. Now, I think there was a distinct change that happened over the years at National Law School. And mine were the batches where you would find some of that influence coming in. So she was 3 years senior me in college. So her batch, she's right, perhaps didn't have that level of privilege. But you would have some sorts of privilege. So you would have big plantation owners, right? You would have people who were born and brought up in Bangalore and who had homes in Bangalore and for whom they were just coming down the road to college. So in different ways, there are privilege. You would have some who came from lawyer backgrounds. So there may have been that kind of privilege. With her cohort, many, in fact, surprisingly came from Kerala. Nearly 50% came from Kerala or something, right? So with my batch, a lot of us came from Bangalore. About almost a quarter of our batch was from Bangalore. And we all knew each other in some way, a couple of points of contact, and we all know each other. For me, I think looking back, for the kids who were coming not from Bangalore, or who are not coming from public school backgrounds, or who are coming from positions where you would have been at the wrong end of caste privilege or religious privilege. We were not even aware, Shrutanjaya, in those days, right? For me, I'll give you, because you asked me about my school. When I was in Cottons, Bishop Cottons in Bangalore, Jesuit institution, religion didn't matter, community didn't matter, caste didn't matter. And I'm sure we had a mix of all, right? But we never ever knew it when we were growing up as kids, which is argued to be a type of privilege. It may well be. But I hope we can all have that type of privilege at some point in the future when none of us need to know any of these things about each other. But when I came to Delhi, within my first 2 weeks in DPS RK-Puram, people are talking about caste. So I don't know which is the kind of thing that you would call a privilege. Is it a privilege not to know? For everybody, including the ones who come from communities which have been persecuted for years, not to know that they belong to such a community in your school experience must be comforting, I would think. So for me, I think those are not things which immediately presented themselves to us. But I, in hindsight, I look back and I do feel that there were people who didn't come from at least those notional levels of privilege who must have found it much harder than many of us did. We were English-speaking public school kids, which in itself is a huge privilege in India.
Yeah. So let's jump now to after law school. And could you give us, to begin with, just a snapshot of your journey after law school until the points that you got designated as a senior advocate?
Okay, so when I finished law school, I was very clear I wanted to be in Chennai for a while. I wanted to practice in Chennai. So
why? Sorry, why?
My parents were there. I have 3 older siblings and I come from a hardcore science family. So they're all engineers and one brother's a prof, 2 of them work abroad. So all 3 of them live in the US. So I was very clear I wanted to be at home in Chennai with my parents, at least for a few years. So I was very unsure. And of course, and I was a non-believer in all this horoscope and stuff. I had an uncle who used to always look at my hand and say, "You're going to be in Delhi." And I used to fight with him and say, "Of course not, I'll never be in Delhi. I'm going to be in Chennai." And so I started off with joining Mr. Arvind Datta in 1998, July. And I barely worked for 3 weeks when my dad fell very seriously ill. So I had to literally quit in 3 weeks. And then I was with my father for a good 3-4 months till he went to the US for treatment, where my siblings were. And I thereafter didn't want to be financially or otherwise dependent on my dad because he felt I did law because of him. So I didn't want him to have any such pressure because he had pretty much given up all his work when he was sick over those 5 months. So I wanted to make my own path. So then that's when I applied to Amarchand. I didn't sit for a campus interview in law school, but I was very, very lucky. I had very dear friends of mine who were working in Amarchand in Delhi. And
your contemporaries or your seniors?
Both, my contemporaries and my seniors. I had 2 of my batchmates who were good friends, and I had some seniors who were very dear to me. And fortunately, they were all in Amarchand. And so when I applied and wrote to Mrs. Shroff, they also spoke to her and said, Mrs. Pallavi Shroff. They automatically spoke to her and said, "Our friend is applying. You have to at least give her a chance, give her an interview." And I think I have a lot to thank for, So then I was called for an interview, both with Mr. Shardul Shroff and Mrs. Pallavi Shroff. And I was very clear I wanted to be in the litigation department of Amarchand Mangaldas.
What did the firm look like? How many teams would they have?
Well, they didn't even have. It was very small. The litigation office was in Connaught Place, and their non-litigation office was in Bengali Market. There were like maybe 50, 60 lawyers all put together in Delhi. Of course, they had a Bombay and Bangalore office. So Mr. Shroff was very keen that I joined the non-litigation team, whereas Mrs. Shroff headed the litigation team. So I was very clear I wanted to be in the litigation team. And I was very fortunate that they accepted me as part of their team. And so I joined from 1st December 98, and there's been no looking back. And I've just been in Delhi, and I love Delhi. And I've taken to it like a duck takes to water. So I had a fabulous time in Amarchand. I was in the litigation wing. I worked under Mrs. Pallavi Shroff, and she was a fantastic boss. She gave me complete freedom. I remember in all the conferences with clients, and it used to be those big clients, she used to, after the conference, I would go to her with doubts, and she'd say, why didn't you ask this doubt in the conference? And I would say, no, I just feel maybe it's a stupid question, and I didn't want you to look silly in front of your big clients. So she'd say, no, maybe from your stupid point, we'll get an intelligent point. So she says, no, you have to speak up in the conference. And she gave me a tremendous amount of confidence. And we worked with very good teams in Amarchand as well. So my experience with Amarchand was fantastic. So I worked there for about 3 years. Then I was very clear that though the work was great, one never got much of an opportunity to argue cases. And I always wanted to be an arguing counsel as opposed to a filing counsel. And rightly so, I was told by many people at that point that women and being counsels is very difficult. And possibly that's not a good idea for me to branch out. But then I thought I should at least try, because that's the only reason I even did law, not to just sit in an office and just, be invisible. So I joined Mr. C.S. Vaidyanathan for about 7 months, and he did a lot of telecom work. And he was Mr. Venugopal's chamber junior. So when Mr. Venugopal was looking for a junior at that point, he told me to go there.
He was Mr. Venugopal's first ever or second?
Not first ever, I think second or third junior. There was Mr. P. Chidambaram and his wife Nalini Chidambaram, who were there prior in time.
Mr. Krishnamani.
Yeah, Mr. M.N. Krishnamani as well. So in fact, Mr. Vaidyanathan moved from Chennai to Delhi also with Mr. Venugopal. So he said, my senior is looking. And I'm happy to say there are only 2 others who had a similar path. One is Mr. K.V. Vishwanathan, now Justice K.V. Vishwanathan, and Mr. Guru Krishna Kumar. So both of them also went from CSV's office to KKV's office.
I don't think either of them asked the question of Mr. Vaidyanathan which you asked.
Yeah, that is true. So because I was very worried when Mr. Vaidyanathan called me and said, so my senior is looking for somebody and I want you to go and work in his office. I was very worried. I thought I'd done something wrong. So I said, sir, have I done something wrong? Why are you sending me away? He started laughing. He said, no, he's a fabulous senior. He will teach you and you will learn a lot more.
Yeah.
And he was absolutely right. Mr. Venugopal's office was simply fantastic. I was there for 6 years and I think I learned a tremendous amount. And what you learn in that office is something which no law school can ever teach you. And in terms of just, I think what I've realized is, having just worked in good chambers, I was very fortunate in the bosses I've had, starting from Mrs. Shroff, Mr. Vaidyanathan, and then Mr. Venugopal. And eventually, your reputation of your office will stick with you. And your ethics, your integrity, all that is sort of molded at this stage. Right? How you should approach a case, how you should conduct yourself in court. And these are very tough lessons. And when you have bosses like the bosses I had, this is what you learn. And I think each one of them has contributed in molding me today as a professional I am. So they have to take the credit as well as the brickbats because, they've been fabulous with how they've taught us and how they've encouraged juniors, integrity, value systems. It's not just the law. It's about the value systems. And I remember Mr. Venugopal always used to tell us when we worked on cases, he says, only stop working on a file when you feel you are ready to argue with yourself. Don't just do some cursory note and say, my job is done, now it's your problem. Says, no, if you are called upon to argue, will you be able to put the case across?
Right.
If you're not satisfied, that means you have not finished your work on your file. And I think that's what we do. And Mr. Venugopal always used to start with a bare act. No matter what area of law, no matter, even if it's a constitution, and for a person who's a constitutional expert like him, he will still, the minute you start talking of a case, he'll say, give me the bare act or the bare text of the Constitution, and he will start and read it like he's reading it for the first time. And he will start from there, and then he will keep on digging, and then come all the way to whatever conclusions he needs to draw. He never took anything for granted. If you were to tell him this is the law, he'll say, why? Why are you saying that is the law? What is the basis for saying this is the law? So constantly questioning what everybody assumes is the right proposition of law, trying to understand from scratch. I think that's all been tremendous. And then after that, I went independent in 2008.
2008.
10 years after I graduated. I was independent. And I think that's what a lot of youngsters these days, I think, go independent in 4 years, 5 years and stuff. It took me 10 years to go independent. And I think there is a lot to learn. And I think so by the time I was independent, I was quite happy. I was quite confident. But yes, what happens thereafter is that when you're used to working with like an Amarchand or with Mr. Venugopal, you do all high profile matters which you read in the newspaper. Then suddenly you're doing matters nobody cares about. You know, some obscure matter which you're working on, nobody's really going to talk about it. Media doesn't care. Nobody cares about it. I mean, except you and your client, right? So I think first you start getting used to doing normal matters and not just high profile matters. And then you realize that you don't have that umbrella of protection you've had for 10 years. You know, you don't have a boss to go to. You don't have somebody to take your problem to. It's pretty much you and yourself. So then it's been an interesting journey after that, building work and going on.
And since 2008 till now, you have stuck to a forum or you've diversified?
Not
I'll
at
ask
all.
you the reasons why, but...
No, I've not stuck to a forum. I've not at all stuck to a forum. I've gone to the Delhi High Court, I've gone to Ep.12, I've gone to DRT, I've gone to Tisazari, I've gone to NCLT, NCLAT, Competition Commission, everywhere.
Superb.
I've even argued an Provident Fund Appellate Tribunal matter at the backseat of an ambassador car.
Give details. I'm sure his viewers want to know about this.
Yes, please do.
No, so I had a matter before the EP-FAT, as it's called, the Employees Provident Fund Appellate Tribunal.
Okay.
So their office was somewhere near Shankar Market. And I think there was a fire in the income tax office, which was on the floor above it or below it. So they were not sure about the worthiness of the building. So the officer actually came and sat in his car at the entrance of the building.
Presiding officer.
Presiding officer. Yeah. And we had to go and sit in the front seat, turn back and make arguments, present our arguments. So it's been fascinating.
When was this?
When was this? Maybe around 2002, 3 or so. I can't even remember when it was.
When you were
with Mr. Venugopal.
With Mr. Venugopal, okay.
When I was with Mr. Venugopal.
And this was your private matter?
My private matter, obviously. So it was my private matter. And he used to encourage us to do our private work as well. So I think I went and appeared in a tribunal like that in an ambassador car. So it's been a huge learning curve.
Sir?
I started directly in the Supreme Court in November 2002. I'd done a master's, I came back, and I had always been keen on working in the Supreme Court. I had done a couple of internships with Mr. Venugopal and with Karanjiwala and Co. Both top-notch, fantastic internships. And I was very clear that what drives me and what I love is the law. You know, engaging with it, evolving around it, coming up with new stuff, challenging it. That's what I really love. It would have been extremely convenient to just live in Bangalore and practice there. I have a home right next to the High Court. I have friends, I have family, I have like a huge support structure there. But I didn't feel that the High Courts would give me what I was looking for, because I had interned in the High Court also. I was familiar with the Karnataka High Court, the Bombay High Court. But I said to myself that, you know, I need to just try and swim against the tide and go to a city which is not my own and try and build it from there. I was fortunate that Mr. Venugopal took me, and there was a small chamber of just 4 of us at that point of time. I joined a year and a half after Hari did. And in the initial stages, I found it challenging because it was a new city. I was not used to it. I would drag myself into work late. A boss would call Hari up because she's from the same college as me and say, where is that fellow? Why hasn't he come in? And I would, because we had a habit of having to go first to his office and then come to court in the mornings. So it was winter, it was cold, I was under a kambal. And I'm like, really? You think he wants me there? Does he care? And so when I would land up, I think almost 2 months I was tardy. I was terrible.
Sorry, where were you putting up? His office is in Niti Bagh. Right?
Yes. But I was staying with a friend who was a top-notch lawyer, Vijayendra Pratap Singh, who is now, he's with AZB. AZB, no? Yeah, AZB. He has a very thriving commercial competition practice, and his sense of humor has not changed from then, if you can even call it a sense of humor. So he would go off to work when he was working at Amarchand, and I would slowly toddle to work and find that all the cars had left for court. Then I would get an auto and go to court, and then I would be tardy. But I think 2-3 months of that, it was teething problems for me. And then I found that, like with good offices, it's of course the boss, but it's also the trickle down from the boss of his influences. So I had some fantastic colleagues at work. Hari was also there.
I knew that was coming.
Guru had just left. He was halfway in, 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and stuff like that. So we would do these conferences which were fairly in depth, and then we would work again on the matters. And the same way that the generation before us would look at us and feel that we were spoilt because we had printers and computers.
Yeah.
We look at this generation and say, you have mobile phones, you can call and say this matter is reaching, that matter is reaching. You have digital boards which tells you where it is, there's a passover, judge has risen, board has been discharged, that kind of stuff. So for us, we had to do all this physically, run from court to court and figure out what is happening, where, get estimates, etc. But I think that starting from there, where you do everything apart from just the actual legal research, but you actually get photocopies and you make compilations and you do page numbering and you do all that dog's work, really, really strengthens you in many ways. It gives you skill sets that you don't figure out elsewhere. And I think KKV's office was known as an office which you could rely on to get that kind of work done. So if you were not particularly a very sound AoRs office which was coming in, which you didn't have either that kind of support staff, or you were not just capable of that, you would feel that in boss's office, you could just let it be, they will handle it. And it was true. We would just land up and you'd have the compilations, you'd have everything, and he would just turn around and say, where are those photocopies? And you'd give it to him. Yeah. And you'd feel good that you're being there, there, assisting. Another thing which was great about him was he would acknowledge the support that his juniors gave or the instructing counsel gave or whatever. And he was very generous in that sense, which made a big difference to how judges look at you and view you the next time you come. My first experience when I was made to argue was because KKV hadn't landed up. Mr. KG Raghavan of the Karnataka High Court was on the other side. And Justice Varyava had seen me instructing boss in a matter 2 weeks before. So he said with a delightful lisp of his, he said, no, young man, you start. It's okay, Mr. Venugopal will come. And I started. I fumbled around for about 20 minutes. And it was 3:30 or something. And then he said, we'll take it up the next day. It
was a hopeless case.
It was a hopeless case.
And all of us went and sat next to him because we all got information that Justice Varyava did not pass it over or adjourn it, but he was a lovely judge. Yeah. So he was so kind, he was so good, and all of us went and sat next to him when he was arguing.
Your first was Justice Bhandari?
Yeah, Justice Bhandari.
Dalvi Bhandari, yeah. So, I mean, for us, I think for me, those were the big things.
No, you should tell him what Justice Varyava did the next morning. So, next morning, Mr. Venugopal landed up for the matter.
Yeah.
So then he heard Mr. Venugopal.
How come it was heard?
It was heard till 3:34. He said, I'll take it up tomorrow. Yeah. He wanted to dismiss it. So he waited for Mr. Venugopal. He patiently sat for all of 2 minutes. When Mr. Venugopal argued, he says, Mr. Venugopal, dismissed. So then Mr. Venugopal said, no, but this, that. He said, see, if I wanted to give a good order, I would have given it to your junior. I wanted to dismiss it. I want you to come. So I'm dismissing it. Yeah. He was such a lovely judge.
Yeah. So I think in those years with the KKV, I managed to help him with the other stuff also, which made me realize that I could do writing and publish work, which I started doing. I started writing fairly frequently and publishing. It also helped me hone my drafting skills, which I think was helpful later. But this lasted for about 2.5 years with him. And then I wasn't sure if I wanted to continue with law at all. So then
Why? As in what? Despite having a great office, so there must have been some other considerations. And what are those?
No, well, a couple of things. One, my father had been diagnosed with the disease, so I felt, I'm away from home and all. I've made this choice, and my brother was abroad at that time, and I felt that maybe I'm not doing the right thing. And second, I wasn't sure about law. I still am not. I just do it, but I still keep wondering. You have one life. You want to do so many things. And here you are stuck doing this for 20-25 years. But at that time, I was looking up at all the people in the profession, and I was looking at all of them and saying, is this what I want to be? And I love boss to bits, but I don't want to be him. I don't want to be any of those people who I had seen. I'd seen Mr. Nariman and Mr. Sorabji and all those greats, right? Yeah. And I'd seen them, I'm like, how much will all of you do this? I mean, they all did this for 50, 60 years, but I'm keep wondering. I've done it nearly a third of that, and I at that point I was wondering, is this really what I want to do? Maybe I want to travel a bit, etc. And I did. I took time off. I went back to Bangalore. I stayed with my folks. I wrote for a while. I wrote short stories. I wrote a sitcom with some friends. We pitched it to a couple of agencies who said, "Oh my God, it's in English," and then. I traveled, I went abroad, I bust all the savings I had. And then I said, what the hell? I came back, and Mr. Venugopal's office didn't have space, and Miss Indu Malhotra's office had an opening. So I joined there. I met two friends for life, Arjun Suresh, who is like a brother to me, and Kunal Tandon, who is like the brother who you'll always fight with. I love them to bits. And that was my best experience, meeting those guys and knowing I have buddies for life. For a year and a half, I was there. I did actually spend a lot of that time with an opportunity that threw itself up for me, which is Mr. Nariman had seen me assisting KKV in my previous avatar. So when I came back and we had become close, he asked me to assist him in IR Coelho's case. So it was a 5-day hearing, and he gave me first chair, I think. And I helped him, assisted him, and we used to thrash out ideas. And I loved the fact that somebody who was in his 80s would be so open-minded to crunch ideas with a 26-year-old. It was amazing. I mean, it's a great, great feeling. And you realize that great ideas can come from anywhere, just like bad ideas can. And to have an open mind shows how evolved you are as a lawyer. I believe KKV and Fali and Soli and the true greats, right, are people who are willing to get those ideas from anywhere. I think why Abhishek Singhvi and Mukul Rothki are at the top of the profession are because they are willing to open their minds to any idea from anywhere. You might be 7th person at the row. Mr. Rothki will tell you, tell me, what do you say? And it'll be something that he's willing to engage on. Yeah. And I think we are slowly losing that. I'm sorry, I'm digressing. I think we are slowly losing that with the kind of impatience and the pressures that the profession is putting on judges and on lawyers, etc. But that was a great experience. So eventually, after a year and a half of that, I bumped into Mr. Nariman in the car park. And I said, I've been here, I've been doing AOR assisting work for a while. And so he said, what's wrong with you? Just go back to Venu. So I went back and asked boss, and he had space. So I joined him, and I was with him, I think, till 2011 or so. 12, till 2012 or so. He allowed me to do my own work. So I would do a lot of PIL work, environment work, pro bono work, against caste-based reservations, stuff like that. So that allowed me to do a lot of work of my own. So when I went independent, that work was still there. It wasn't paying, but it was visible. And I think that's what Hari keeps telling me, that whenever I advise young kids, that please, you can go ahead and start in the Supreme Court. I did. She says my tangent was perhaps a little unique. It doesn't always work like that, and it's not easy. And I think she is perhaps right, because it's not an easy tangent. It is something which comes with its own challenges. It worked for me. Don't know if it'll work for the next person. But that kept me going for a while to keep our visibility there. And so when people saw you and they see you mainly not as an AOR, there's no threat that the AORs feel. You're not interested in the client. You're interested in the work. So they're willing to give you drafting, small appearances, and it grows like that incrementally. So that's why, eventually when I was getting the appearances, I applied and I got designated.
Just to understand, apart from the usual sense of competence that is in that office, just being there and living in that kind of environment, what is it about that office that so many people have left that office and gone on to become so good, right? And it's not just both of you spent such a long time, and I don't know if people usually spend that kind of time in his office and other seniors' offices in the Supreme Court. So, my question is, do they? Is that kind of an amount of time spent usually in Mr. Venugopal's office? And have you seen other people who spent less time, more time than you, do equally well, better than you, not as good? And what do you think has caused that kind of change? And the reason I'm asking this question is that this general idea that, if you're a first generation lawyer, there is a little harder that you to work, and that lack of privilege can be overcome in one way by joining a great accomplished senior advocate's office that serves as a good cushion. And I'm interested in knowing if you saw people who took that choice, who came from such background. You yourself are, for example, first generation for all practical purposes, but did you see that it was a uniform thing, that everybody who came into that office and left that office had a great trajectory after that? Or people even left the law, some didn't do as well, and some did even more brilliantly?
No, if I can take that. I think that it's not true that everybody had a great trajectory. Many made life choices where the fact that they were in KKV's office may not have been determinative of what they were going to do in life. So it was a great spot for you to park yourself if you were, say, in the profession and you had a spouse who was traveling somewhere and you had to go with them, etc. You would be here for 2-3 years. So there were many of those kind of people who passed through those portals. You had some who were just like our dear friend Divya, such a free spirit, Justice Santosh Hegde's niece, and she was his junior. But KKV and Santosh Hegde were very dear friends. So she wouldn't appear before Justice, she wouldn't appear in the Supreme Court at all. She was our colleague at that point of time. So she would go to the High Court and practice. But she just said, forget it. She was such a free spirit. This is not what she wanted to do. So she went to Goa and opened a bookshop, which is the most famous bookshop in Goa today, called Literati. So she was our colleague, and that's an example of somebody who went elsewhere. We had many colleagues like that who passed through KKV's chambers. So it's not like every single one followed this trajectory. I think many would have wanted to. Many by choice may not have wanted to. Many couldn't. Right? I think is the real answer to this.
Yeah.
But of those who, perhaps if you look at it from the point of view of the trajectory into, say, senior designation and arguing in the Supreme Court, there are a healthy number. It's a much healthier number than any other chamber in the country. And I think a lot of it, almost all of it, has to do with two aspects. One, KKV's generous approach to the law. His own approach to the law is one of a student, even till today. It's something which you can easily identify with, and it's something you share and learn together. And one aspect of that is the complete lack of insecurity in anything he does vis-a-vis the profession and the law. So he doesn't mind if some other senior who's younger than him will start. He says, very competent fellow, let him start. He's not bothered about those kind of things because he knows he has his points and he's going to address it. The second aspect, I think, is the fact that his selections at the beginning were by and large of really decent people. Either they would come on good recommendations, like from Mr. Vaidyanathan and elsewhere, or when he interacted and he gave them a small test to do to see how well they can handle a brief or something. So a large number of the choices he made were good people. So you could, in the chamber, get on with them and you could learn from them, etc. Both of us agree that Ankur Talwar, in fact, who's KKV's long-standing junior, one of the finest colleagues we have had, a brilliant mind. I mean, if he had decided to take this path of actually independently arguing, etc., he would have been a senior by far and he'd been an outstanding lawyer. That's the opinion I think both of us share.
Absolutely.
And the kind of respect and regard we have for our peers is something we have learned from that. We've had many other who have all gone in from our generation and from before. So we follow the footsteps of everybody from PC and CSV and Jaideep and Parag and Rohinton and Vishy. So we know that there is that line of, and we are a family at the end of it. So thanks to KKV, we always look at each other, and when we know that this is our chamber, so we will chat and gossip and we'll have a little chats about it. I think that's quite an enduring thing. I haven't seen that healthy aspect of chamber behavior in other chambers.
You agree?
Yes, absolutely. But to answer your question about the number of years people normally spend, right? I think it's a generational thing. Like I said earlier also, I think a lot of youngsters these days are in this earth-shattering hurry to go independent, set up office, do X, Y, Z. They're in a big hurry. Many times we get resumes of people and I see they work for 1 year in this office, 1 year in that office, 1 year, and then they want to apply to senior, and 1 year later they are looking at themselves setting up a chamber. So it doesn't work like that. I think it's like what my dad used to say about a car. He said you should keep a car for 5 years and then you need to change it. So if you really need to understand, learn and contribute in an office, you have to stay for at least 3 years to 4 years. Because for the initial year, you're not really contributing as much as you think you're contributing. You're really learning the ways of that office or whatever it is, right? And what your bosses want and stuff. Then it takes you almost another 6 to 8 months to start delivering. And then you reach a point after 2 to 3 years when you feel you're actively contributing. You're value adding in matters, right? So that takes a good 3 to 4 years, in my opinion, for you to genuinely start adding value to a case, not just being a passing ship in the office. And therefore, and I think it's generational, I believe that my 6-year stint in Mr. Venugopal was absolutely necessary for me to finally hone my skills. Because once you go independent, it's very difficult to go back and join any office if it's not going too well, right? And at the same time, when you're there, you want to learn as much as possible, because people like Mr. Venugopal are not easy to come by, right? And once we have the privilege of working in an office like that, then you want to make the most of it. And it's about the person, it's about your, like Gopal mentioned, your colleagues, it's about so many things. It's a highly enriching experience. And I genuinely think anyone should work in any chamber as long as it's not what these days people call a toxic chamber. I think other than that, you need to work in any office for at least 3 to 4 years minimum.
Provided they let you do your own work. I think that's a necessary condition.
Yeah, provided they let you do your own work.
If you're not letting them do your own work, there's no point.
No, you can't feel stifled in an organization.
Yeah, so I'm interested in knowing these aspects about Mr. Venugopal's office, which really gave you the freedom. For instance, of course, you would have spent so much time doing his work that you wouldn't have really,
we burnt the midnight oil. We burnt the midnight oil.
Yeah.
He was very clear. If you had to go and do your own matter, please go and do it. But tell him in advance. So we were all very careful. We would tell him well in advance. We would make sure a colleague was there to cover for us if we were not to be present in court. We would finish working, go home, work late at night on our cases. Because also, again, this is something, these are all pet topics, if you can say so. A lot of people now, they barely graduate from college and they already want a work-life balance. I disagree. Right? I think your first 5 to 6, 7 years, I don't think you should look at work-life balance if you're serious about being a litigating lawyer, because there's much to learn, right? And they say law is a jealous mistress. They're absolutely right. You need to invest your time and energy. You need to be focused, right? Because that's the only way you'll get the best out of the system, and you can give your best. to the system. Yeah. So I remember we would work till late, we would go back, we would burn the midnight oil, finish our drafting, our research, whatever it is, barely sleep for a few hours. I'm not making a virtue out of necessity, but it was something we did, and we are happy having done that, because today I have the independence, I have the choice to say, okay, I won't work beyond 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. I need my beauty sleep. I can do everything today, right? And I do not regret those years of my life when I sort of killed myself, I think, working during the day as well as the night. I think it has really helped me learn a lot. The amount of exposure it gave me, because the kind of work you do with your seniors' chambers, like Mr. Venugopal's office, is not something you can do in the beginning time of your career. So you do that, plus you build your own practice. It takes time. Plus there's a lot of credibility which you build, which is something which when I was there, I did not realize how important it was. But when I left this chamber and I went back to court for anything, I would realize that we had so many people who genuinely liked us. Right? And I didn't realize this, because there were AoRs who briefed them, other co-counsels who always were kind to us. You know, because they saw us as juniors who were diligent or sincere or whatever it was. They were always willing to go that extra mile for us without even realizing it, because that was not our objective. There was this huge pool of goodwill which had collected. And not just amongst others, even including, like Gopal mentioned, chamber. Like we have this huge chamber culture, Mr. Venugopal's, and this is something we want to have for our own chamber, right? Irrespective of whether people have left us or not, everybody's most welcome to walk into the office, use this office, tell us if they have any problems, because that is what Mr. Venugopal's office is about. It's about an institution where even when you leave, you have not left. So, and I think my favorite, something which happened a year and a half ago. So Mr. M.K. Nambiar, who's Mr. Venugopal's father, he has his M.K. Nambiar Memorial Lecture. So year and a half ago, when Chief Justice Chandrachud was in office, he had to give the memorial lecture, and it was happening at Bharat Mandapam. So one fine day, we all got a call, I think on a Friday afternoon around 4 o'clock, saying, boss wants you to come tomorrow to office at 1. So each of us went without realizing the entire chamber had been called. When I say chamber, I mean CSV, Mr. Parag Tripathi, Mr. Jaydeep Gupta, Gopal, me, Pooja, everyone, all of us, Sham, the entire lot of us, and each of us were looking at each other and saying, you also. Basically, he had summoned the entire chamber, and everybody dropped everything they were doing on that Saturday afternoon and landed up there. That is the spirit of Mr. Venugopal's office and chamber, and it's fantastic. And we all looked at each other, and each of us said, no, I cancelled this, I cancelled that. But everybody was there for Mr. Venugopal.
I didn't cancel it. I came for the beer.
So, and he was so lovely about it. You know, he actually told us why he called us. He wanted help because he said, look, I've unintentionally taken on something huge as organizing at Bharat Mandapam. I need all of you to help. So right from the senior to the junior most person in office, all of us were making lists, calling people, greeting guests, inviting people, sending cards. The entire chamber was hands-on.
I remember you were all standing along the red carpet. And
absolutely. So, but you know, it gives you a sense of belonging, because otherwise in this profession, it can be very alienating. It is very cutthroat in many ways, but then it gives us a sense of belonging. When I'm in court, I don't feel alone. I somehow know that there are these bunch of people around me who actually care for me, or rather they care for the chamber. So everybody's looking out for each other. If I were to see anybody I know, of course anyone at all, but in particular if it was Mr. Venugopal's office chamber junior, I would go that extra mile. It could be somebody who I never worked with also. So that's the beauty. It gives you a sense of belonging. It gives you a safety net, and it's all something very, very special.
Which is something we've tried to create. For our own chamber. We want our associates and our juniors and all to feel that, look, this is home for you guys in the profession. You can come whenever you want, seek our guidance on anything personal or professional, etc. Because I think it's important. It's a unforgiving profession. It's an extremely challenging profession, and especially in this age of social media, public viewing, and criticism, it's very difficult not to feel constantly buffeted by forces which are unnecessary and alien to the work we do. So I think to withstand it, it's only good friends and well-wishers that can help you, withstand that.
Even in growing your practice, without discounting the importance of what you just mentioned, seeing familiar faces in court, etc. For example, by referring matters to you, by engaging you in matters, is that the kind of help that you have gotten
No.
from your chamber juniors?
No, not at all.
From your chamber juniors,
From chamber senior.
Correct.
From
No,
chamber seniors and colleagues. And
No. So that's not the kind of help we've ever got from Mr. Venugopal's chambers, and that's fine. But what we did is, when we went independent, we had a lot of credibility, which is again something which is highly underrated. Because people knew if they came to us, they'd get honest lawyers who were not out to snatch their briefs. Like Gopal mentioned, there were a lot of solicitors who would call us and say, can you appear in this matter? Can you do this drafting? Only because they knew we came from a chamber like Mr. Venugopal's, and that we would never do a dirty on them, right? And that we are fair people.
I just want to say on this, I think it's important for your viewers also, young lawyers, to hear this. Quite often it would happen that when we were as chamber juniors briefing KKV on a matter in which an AOR had brought a brief, etc., the client would be sitting there along with the AOR. The client may from time to time feel, wow, very competent kid. Why is this AOR not able to do what that boy or girl is doing? That's a reality of the situation, that in some cases you may be able to assist better. That's why you're there, right? And sometimes those people will directly get in touch with you. They will ask the clerk, what's this fellow's number? Get in touch, and that happened a few times. And I'm grateful that I had the guidance of people like Hari in my chamber, who said, tread carefully, don't respond, call the AOR, tell the AOR that, look, this guy has reached out to me, I just want to keep you in the loop. And it's not funny how important that is in the profession. Because when you do that, you build your credibility with the AOR. You also let the client know that, look, I'm not engaging with you. I'm letting him know. And you will tell him also, please route it through the AOR. Because that's how our system works. And that's where the credibility is built. So the AOR also feels that, okay, safe. So if I want assistance, I can turn towards him. And I have benefited directly from this. Hari has also benefited from situations like this which have presented themselves. That fork that you come to and you make the wrong choice out of greed can really go against you later.
Because cases will come, cases will go, Shrutanjaya. I mean, you can be very rich, very successful, and eventually you're gone. Everybody dies one fine day, right? So the only thing left of you is your reputation and the footprints you have created on the way. And that's very, very important. Have you helped people on your journey? What was your reputation? Because there must have been tons of successful lawyers who've made money. Nobody speaks about them. But you speak about a person with ethics, with integrity. You've managed to make life and the system a better place. And I think that's something, it is difficult. It is difficult because, when you need to pay rent, you need to pay some EMI, you need to do this. If a client is calling you, it's easy to take that client and say, okay, the AOR, a lot of people say, we can't help it if the AOR can't do it. So what? The client called me. The answer is no. That's not you can't take the easy way out. This profession is not for people who want to take the easy way out. You have to stick to the straight and narrow path, and success takes a lot of time. If you're lucky, it may take lesser time. If you come from a background where you have a launch pad, maybe it'll take lesser time. But the only way to go about it is the straight and narrow path. And I think that is what Mr. Venugopal instilled. Like when he finished 50 years or 60 years in the bar, I was in his office and I asked him jokingly, I said, sir, how did you manage 60 years? I was then 7, 8 years, 9 years. And I said, I'm already fed up. He said, why are you fed up? Why? What is causing you to, feel so much angst? He says, you get a case, you do it. Don't compare yourself with people who are better than you, worse than you. Don't have that sense of lack of fulfillment. Be content where you are. Your time will come. You just have to do the job you get to the best of your abilities. Just forget everything else. He said, even in his life, he could have had contemporaries who may have done better than him from, some people's perspective, worse than him, but never compare. Just do your job and don't take the easy way out. And it's easier said than done. I agree. But I think that is what has made us the people we are today. And funnily, eventually all this pays off.
Just on that one point of him sending work our way, etc. I'll be candid. When I was just going independent in the profession, we were always looking for work, right? And it used to surprise me that there were contemporaries of his and people maybe a little younger who would just ensure that their juniors got onto panels, that their juniors would get marked briefs, that their juniors would just travel by private jets for arbitrations in London and back and this and that. And I would wonder, yeah, boss is in a position, he could do this, and he wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
And I would wonder, look, why wouldn't he do this? Because, I mean, one direct contemporary of his who was always doing this for his juniors, giving them lots of work, giving them position, etc., was Soli. So, Mr. Sorabji made his own junior, the Solicitor General, just Hari Salve was made the Solicitor General when Mr. Sorabji was Attorney General. And we would see that kind of stuff happening from Soli's chamber for Uday Lalit, for Gopal Subramaniam, for all. And I would wonder, I don't think KKV does this stuff. And I would think that, hey, this is odd, no? After all, we're a family, you should be doing this. But I think in hindsight, I begin to realize, I don't know if he planned this. I've never asked boss this. But it's just what he is. He's not the kind who will ask for favors and stuff like that, saying, put this to the guy. He doesn't do that.
Never did it.
Never did. So I would think that maybe that's part of his character, which has worked out well for us and for him. Because it could have been that he could have spoken to someone, put us on a panel.
Yeah.
And then what happens after the panel is done? Or somebody says, isko mark karna mat matters, then what do you do?
Correct.
Then you're sunk. No? So all those artificialities were not there.
Yeah.
We genuinely had to work hard to get our work whenever it came.
Yeah.
So, and I remember Hari going to 30,000 and doing trials in the trial court, and I would say, why don't you come to Supreme Court? She said, I'm going where the work is. Wherever the work is, I will go, I will do it. Right?
I want to ask you about that actually. You made vastly different choices.
Yes.
And I think it's common knowledge that you have, for instance, gone across the board to all courts, like you also mentioned. And so you have stuck to Supreme Court. And I know that you feel differently about these questions also. So I want to ask you, when you started out, why did you make this choice? Number one, was it conscious, unconscious, whatever? And two, also, now looking back, do you feel that this was the right choice? Would you advise other people similarly, or would you add a few caveats, or how do you think about it now?
So I don't regret my choice. And I think when I went independent, so I started with Amarchand, right? So I went to High Court and DRT and MRTP Commission when I was at Amarchand. So when I went independent, number one, I think as women lawyers, it's not easy to get work to begin with, right? And that's the problem starts there in many ways. So number one, you need people who entrust you with work. So wherever I got work, I would go because I felt that literally beggars cannot be choosers at that point. You have to pay your bills, you have to do what it takes, right? So I took work wherever I got work from. So I did all sorts of cases. Second, I always wanted to do commercial litigation. I wanted to be an arguing counsel in commercial matters. Now in Supreme Court, the way it is structured, there are very few commercial matters which actually get argued in Supreme Court. It's mostly constitutional cases.
Especially before IBC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before the days of IBC especially, right? So if you actually key in operation and mismanagement, you'll get like 4 or 5 cases of Supreme Court. That provision has been there from 1956, right? So that few, because I think most corporates settle matters. After a certain point, they don't want to waste their time in litigation. They possibly settle the matter or, accept whatever verdict comes their way. So a lot of commercial matters get done in NCLT, NCLAT, arbitration, so on and so forth. And I enjoy that kind of work. So it was a conscious choice that if I got to argue, then I'm willing to go to any forum. If I don't get to argue, then I can be particular about doing only Supreme Court matters. I think that's pretty much what I decided around 2010 or 11, 2-3 years after I went independent. And by the time I had my child, my first kid in 2009, and then by 2011, I remember telling Gopal that, see, I'm going to stop filing. I was filing in High Court. I was never an AoR. And I was advised by Mr. Vaidyanathan that, no, if you want to be a counsel, don't write the AoR exam. So, and I felt that was the right path because it's very easy to slot women as filing counsels, right? I've seen a lot of women before me, and even though they get more opportunities to argue, eventually when they get their gown, they're still treated as filing lawyers, right? I didn't feel that they were being treated as an independent arguing counsel like the men were.
Yeah.
So I decided that you have to make your path right from the beginning. It is again a difficult path, and possibly I had it easier because I was married. I had a partner who was also earning. So maybe I was in a position to take that call to say I will not file.
Yeah.
So I remember in 2011 I took a conscious decision. I will not file. I will either be junior counsel in matters in Supreme Court or arguing counsel in any other forum and in Supreme Court.
Yeah.
And so that is how I landed up going to multiple forums. So I had people who would say, come and argue something in High Court or arbitration or thesis and I would go. And I think that has really helped me a lot. You learn a lot when you go to different forums, right? The kind of law, the kind of procedure you learn. I think it has only helped me.
Yeah.
So today when I'm looking at a case, when I'm in Supreme Court, I'm not looking at it only with blinkers on from a Supreme Court angle. I'm looking at what could have happened at the trial court, understanding how a tribunal functions. So many times I feel when you have judgments which come from tribunals, right? People say, concurrent judgment, there's no scope for interference, so on and so forth. But seeing how many of these tribunals sometimes work and how the system is, I think it has enriched me. I know possibly where to go looking for the loopholes, where I will find a loophole which one can try and pitch it to the Supreme Court. And you never know, eventually one of us were to become a judge, eventually, right? It will help us at that stage, knowing how all the various courts in the country work.
Correct.
And I don't have this very exalted opinion of how many of these places work. So, I mean, after all, they're manned by human beings. So they have all the drawbacks and frailties of human beings. So I think it's been enriching. It has taught me, and I won't have it any other way. And I think when people join the profession, like Gopal, of course, will tell you about himself, but I always tell him that he was fortunate because he's always been one of those people for whom money never mattered. So most of his cases were for free, right? So again, he was in a position where he could say, because there were two of us, I will do a matter for free. I will not charge money because the issue was more important than anything else, right? And then he used to write a lot and also got an academic bent of mind. So his path was easier to stick around in Supreme Court. Whereas for many people, you have to go where you get work. You can't say, no, I will only be in Supreme Court. I mean, today after going everywhere, I'm back in Supreme Court. And I'm very happy. Even now, about 70% of my work is Supreme Court, 30% I still go to NCLAT, to an arbitration and stuff. That's fine.
And because you mentioned that you decided consciously to stop filing at some point, who were the initial people who engaged you as a counsel? And in that, I'm also asking other people from Mr. Venugopal's office, did you have a chance to work with them?
No, not really. Actually, going back to an earlier question, I would say about 70% of Mr. Venugopal's chamber stuck to law and did litigation, right? And they're all doing well. Not all of them are necessarily in litigation or counsel practice or are not a judge, but they're all doing well wherever they are. So I don't think much of this break came from that lot. It came from the AoRs in court, who I think saw me when I went independent and told me we have something in, and many of the AoRs are stuck in Supreme Court. They could not leave. So then when I went independent, they said, are you willing to go to Tisari for a matter? Are you willing to go to High Court for a matter? And I was always willing. I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. And I mean, we have today one of those, a colleague of mine who's, who was in the central government panel. He gave me close to, I think, 400 SLPs to draft because he was on a panel and he did not have time to do the drafting work himself, right? So it's all over and it's this small set of people which gradually keeps growing. And I think word spreads, word of mouth, slowly when, like even now when I'm in Supreme Court, I have people who I know say, do you know anybody who's willing to do drafting? Do you have anybody who's going here, going there? So now it's our turn to spread the word and say, go to X, go to Y, so on and so forth. But so it's entirely a different set of people you met.
Was the 400 SLP drafting assignment a paid one or an unpaid one?
Unpaid. It was unpaid, but then, I think, again, both of us enjoyed it, and a lot of work is like investment.
Yeah.
You put in a lot. You don't need to necessarily put in money, but you have to put in your time, and time is your biggest investment in this profession. I put in that time, and today I think it has only benefited me.
Sir, your views?
See, to answer your first question, I came to Delhi to practice in the Supreme Court. There was no other reason. I have been here 23 years.
Yeah.
I don't like the city. And I would just in a heartbeat move back to Bangalore if I could, if there was a Supreme Court bench there. So for me, it was a no-brainer. Yeah, I mean, I was there with KKV for so many years, and it was very simple for me, really, that when the kind of work that I'm doing on my own, which is a lot of pro bono work also, but the kind of time I'm devoting is becoming so much that it's difficult for me to devote time to boss's work. I think then I will exit, and that's what I did. 2012 when I exited, that balance had been achieved in one way, and we had our eldest kid. Our second was on the way, so it seemed a good time to exit. But I'd spent a considerable amount of time with him, learning the craft, hanging out with peers, figuring out, briefing other seniors, understanding how they look at stuff, right? So all that had happened in that. So I was a very central and permanent part of the Supreme Court bar by the time I'd spent 10, 11 years there, right? I hadn't known any other. I had occasional forays to the Delhi High Court, which I did more out of the sense of obligation than for any great love that I had for the Delhi High Court. My views have not changed since. Now, for me, the freedom that I got from doing 7-day weeks virtually with KKV, and I must add a caveat here. It was when the court was functioning.
Yeah.
But vacation times we took strictly and we were away. We were never here for those 6 weeks in winter, in summer, or the 3 weeks in winter. But the rest of the time we're working flat out 7-day weeks. So I was looking forward to that time when I would go independent, to the days when I would have nothing on my list to go to court. Even now, I love those days when I don't have something.
How many days did you have like that?
I had quite a few, actually.
Yeah.
I had quite a few. Maybe about a couple of times a week, I wouldn't have a reason to go. The other 3 days, there would be some random matter which I know is not even going to reach. Like we know, 121 is not going to reach in hell. But I'll just go have coffee, sit in the coffee shop, gup shop a bit, meet. Because I think that is the other part of the profession, which she doesn't really embrace too much, which I think is critical for a litigation practice, which is, as my dear friend Aman Aluwalia coined it 25 years ago, the visibility quotient. You have to be seen, right? You have to be seen, you have to be convivial, you have to be warm, you have to be all those things. Now, if you're not all of those things, then you have to be something else entirely, which is either have some kind of influence, be a second, third generation lawyer, be unscrupulous and corrupt. If you don't have this, then you have to be one of those three, right? So I have seen people succeed massively with one of those three as well. But since we are not those, I think it's sometimes good to have that period of your youth when you're struggling to get more work, but you're having free time and you are actually spending that freedom. I would love to just stay in bed, read a book, go for a movie in the middle of the morning. I have gone and played some sport at 11 a.m. knowing and with great joy and happiness that Senthil Jagdishan is in court slaving over some brief. Yeah. It would give me pleasure knowing that other people are working. It's like bunking class, right? Yeah. So I think that period is too underestimated. And I feel for people who feel impatient in that period saying, oh my God, I don't have a matter to work. Just relish it, love it, because it may not come again.
Yeah.
So for me, it was Supreme Court clearly. And it was fortunate for me that I had been doing a lot of those kind of work, which were not monetarily rewarding, but otherwise. And I was also fortunate. I did this 400 SLP drafting only somebody this daft would do. I actually got quite small smatterings of work from Sanjay Hegde as Counsel for State of Karnataka, Rana Mukherjee, who has been fantastic with younger people at the bar and farming out work. He's farmed it out to so many people, and all who must be grateful to him for so many years. So he would give me work. Ramakrishna Prasad, who is now a judge in Andhra, he had a lot of work of his own, and he would send me work for drafting. G.S. Bal, now a senior advocate of the Punjab and Haryana High Court, his son's personal NCDRC matter about some disability had come when I was in Indu Malhotra's office. So that was a pro bono matter. So she said, why didn't you do it? So I went and did it, and he was happy. And I didn't even know he was a lawyer. He was just a Sikh gentleman sitting at the back of the court. And later I discovered he was a lawyer. And then he started sending me service matters, small service matters from Punjab. So all these people were in many ways influential in ensuring that I had a bit of a practice to continue. Vijay Narayan from Madras used to send me work as well. So
how did you know all these people? Like, how did you meet
Rana, Sanjay, and Ramakrishna from court? That's what I said. Visibility, interacting, talking, finding common interests. All those matter. Those are important things. You may have an interest in music, right? And you may like one particular gharana of Hindustani music where somebody else may say, wow. And for that bizarre reason, they may say, you're good to draft an SLP. You know, it doesn't mean anything else. It's just those kind of commonalities you find with people. You can't understand what could be a consequence of that. Everybody who knows Amit Sharma, Amit Anand Tiwari, Gopal Sankaranarayanan, and Raj Kamal know that if you play cricket, these guys have a weak spot for you, right? So Raj's chamber is full of only cricketers and one drummer. For Asim, who's the drummer in his office. But these are strange things that work, So you will have a kind of kindred spirit for that. And that's how I had with Sanjay, it was quizzing. With Rana, it's like a bizarre sense of humor where neither of us appreciates others' jokes. And with Ramakrishna, it was common love of exotic non-vegetarian food.
And Justice Rao.
And Justice Rao, who was Justice Nageshwar Rao, who's a common, a friend and associate and guide and mentor for all of us. So for me, it was them. For J.S. Pal, like I said, it was this very strange encounter in the NCDRC. And then even much later, like friends from the bar, Atul Nanda, who I happen to work with on a matter where we were briefing KKV. And I didn't know Atul. I mean, for those who don't know Atul, he is a larger than life personality. He and Ramiza, and they run a fantastic chamber with the most exotic kind of books and wine collection and cufflinks. And so people at the bar have a tendency to be so judgmental that they would see Atul and Ramiza get out of a nice swanky SUV. They would have liveried staff who would bring their briefs in. The written submissions would be wrapped in leather, and they would make these kind of presentations and leave, and they would all be sitting and say, oh my God, VIP culture, etc. Without realizing, which I realized because I spent time with the two of them and the work that they did, that when it comes to deep, in-depth research, which is something both Hari and I pride ourselves on, that if you can't find a point, we'll get you a case law. We'll do it. We'll find it from somewhere, but we'll get it. I saw these two as kindred spirits. I saw the kind of research that they did. It was a quo warranto case. They dragged out cases from 1884, from Regency reports. And I was shocked by the depth of the understanding, because they would know. They would know exactly why that phrase came in, why it was used in this particular manner, how it was broken up. And I feel, for me, it was a big learning when I associated with Atul and Ramiza, that you can be so brilliant and just not give a damn what people think about you and absolutely do things your way. And it would be full of merit. And unfortunately, people wouldn't give you the credit that is due to you.
Yeah.
And for me, it was a learning or an unlearning that, when I worked with them, that we are so harsh. And when I say people at the bar are judgmental, I think when I was younger, I was also that. I feel that I have toned that away from myself now. I don't know what people are going through. I don't know what the challenges are in their lives. I don't know why they are the way they are in particular scenarios. And I want myself to be less judgmental, and I hope I am. So I judge them for the particular event or the incident rather than them as human beings. So for me, when I associated with them and we became, I'm very, very fond of the two of them, as I trust they are of me, because when Atul later became Advocate General of Punjab and they shifted there, Atul sent me an arbitration again for me to do. I was designated by then, but got me there to do a fairly important an arbitration which was long standing for a while. And I did that. So apart from all of them, there are people like Atul as well. As a footnote to this, I mean, Ramiza is a brilliant mind and an excellent lawyer. And I feel when she went to Punjab with Atul and started her practice there, unfortunately, she got cheated out of a senior designation because Punjab came up with a rule that your previous 10 years of practice should have been in Punjab, which she didn't have. She had Supreme Court and Delhi High Court and stuff. Otherwise, she's long deserving of a designation, and she would be
fantastic.
Fantastic. She would be a jewel in whichever court she got designated.
That's nice. And so I think we spoke about one of the choices that you made, which is the forum, and you chose it in a particular manner. I want to talk about the other choice, which is counsel practice, which both of you have spoken about. But and I understand that part of it is obviously having seen Mr. Venugopal as a counsel, right? So there's one way that you've seen in which things can be done. But are there other factors which made you step away from what you would call a filing practice or a solicitor practice or something other than counsel practice? Or you just didn't think about it because it was so obvious to you that this is what I want to do and there's nothing else that is on
I think
my mind.
when I was younger, at least, when I was with Mr. Venugopal, I saw many of our peers doing the AOR exam or their spouses doing the AOR exam. We all felt, I think, that, having one AOR may be a helpful thing in the future. But neither of us are cut out for it in different ways. I am not organized, right? You worked in my chamber. You know that.
Not my words.
Not your words, but I'm not the most organized guy. So imagine me keeping a register of all my clients and then writing to them saying, this today we briefed Mr. Rothgi, he appeared in code 7, item 11, we said this, they said this, and then corresponding on every single matter. Then maintaining bills for the senior and for yourself, and oh my God, I'd go nuts. I'm just barely handling this. So, I mean, this is a better question for her because she's so much better organized. Half or more than half of what I am in my career is because of her organizing everything at home and with the kids and my mom, her mom, and everything else. So, I don't think I would be completely hopeless as an AOR.
No, so I think fundamentally there's a problem today in the profession. Earlier, the solicitors and counsels were equally respected. They had the same status. Somewhere in the last 10 to 15 years, so we had Mr. P.H. Parekh, right, who was a solicitor and very well regarded and up there. Then we had Mr. Fali Nariman, whom he regularly briefed. And both were very strong institutions and both were equally respected and valued. Somewhere in the last 10 years, I feel that there has been a shift and everybody believes that being an AOR or a filing office is possibly not as cool or as great or as whatever else as being a senior advocate who's arguing in court. I think I've seen that change and I think it's wrong because I think it's genuinely a lot of work, equally hard work, which a filing office puts in, meeting a client, deciding on a course of action, going through documents, drafting, filing, making sure things on record. It's a lot of work. So, and eventually it's like a movie, right? What you're seeing in the movie are those people who are acting, but there's an entire institution of people behind it who have made that movie possible, right? And that is how filing and arguing counsels are. They're both equally important and equally relevant, right? Why each of us choose different things should be based on our interests, our skill sets, so on and so forth, right? Because I know some people who are frightfully intelligent and smart, but they're very scared to stand up and talk, right? It's just a fear, baseless fear they possibly have. But they are very good at drafting, they're otherwise very articulate, so they may choose to be a solicitor.
Yeah.
And then you can choose somebody who's better at standing up and arguing, who's able to, take that pressure, because eventually it's that hot seat you're in when you're standing up, right? The buck stops with you more or less when a question is thrown at you. How you handle the bench, your opponents were sometimes sledging non-stop. So it's a different skill set, right? So I think it's based on skills and interests, and both are equally important. But somewhere along the way, this distinction is lost, and it's somehow become cooler to be a counsel, which is why, and I also think many of the senior AoRs applied to become seniors much later on.
Yeah.
And that trend itself, I thought, was unnecessary, because it's like them telling the world that all these number of years, what I've done, I don't think was good enough, that I had to do this.
Yeah.
Somewhere in my mind, that's what I felt when you had somebody who has been an AoR forever who suddenly said, now I'm going to apply for being a senior. Why? Did you think that you were not respected and you were not an equal, you didn't bring something equal to the table? Or unfortunately, it was perception which made you do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
So, but having said that, I believe that it's very difficult, because I have also drafted and filed. It's very difficult to draft and file and manage client expectations and everything, and also be the one standing up to argue. Because when you're arguing, you're also looking at the matter in a very different manner. In what you must present first, what you must present second. Sometimes it's not what the client wants.
Yeah.
And solicitors are many times guided by what their clients want.
Yeah.
Being one step removed from the client is very helpful, because you can bring in that objectivity. I've not spent hours with that client going through his case and his papers, right? So I can objectively say that I don't think this is okay, I don't think this is the right thing to say, or this is not the right perspective. So I think it gives you that clarity of thought and objectivity.
Correct.
And given this divide, I genuinely felt that I can't do both. And if I did both, one of the two is likely to suffer. And of course, I felt I was in a position to be confident and I can put across a case. So I chose to be an arguing counsel. That's all. But I think both are equally important. But today, it is not at all perceived that way. And that's something which is really, really sad.
Yeah. Do you think AoRs and senior counsel have a difference in how much they can earn in the career? And who do you think earns more?
I think counsels, successful counsels, not all counsels, right? So when you say earning, even amongst counsel, you have the entire spectrum, right? You have a counsel who will charge you 10,000 rupees for an appearance, because not a counsel who's being briefed regularly. You'll have a counsel who's charging 50, you have a counsel charging 5 lakhs. So when you say counsel, the top elite counsel are really only a handful. And possibly they are earning more than your solicitors.
Yeah.
But there are so many successful solicitors who are earning much more on average than a counsel.
If you look at the average solicitor, for instance, the average solicitor versus the average counsel, what's your impression?
Equal.
Equal.
Or no, I think the average solicitor makes way more. Average.
They may have more overheads.
Because the average counsels, if you're looking at, you leave out the thin elite that she was referring to, then you have hundreds of counsels, right? And your average counsel is somebody who I'm presuming is not an AoR. You're looking at a counsel versus so non-AoR counsel.
Correct.
I think they are definitely at the lower end of the bracket than the average AoR, because the average AoR is the necessary passport to enter the Supreme Court of India.
Right.
You don't need the non-AoR, right? Which is what we were before we were designated.
Right.
So the average AoR has, apart from income, has many benefits. 9 out of 10 chambers are given, or 7 out of 10 chambers are given to AoRs, right? AoRs have access in many, many ways, apart from having an entire association just for themselves. So I think there is much more benefit to being an AoR. Also, if you look at the thin elite of AoRs, if you're looking at Mahesh Agarwal and Karanjiwala, and you look at Datan Menon, that elite are like on toe to toe with Mukul Rohtgi and Abhishek Singhvi, man. I mean, you may not know it, but this is actually where they are, and they deserve to be there. The reason why the biggest corporate your clients in the country are entrusting their national and international work to these guys are not because they are going out and shopping for it. Lots of people shop for it, and that's the job of a solicitor. You have to solicit. Why are they giving it to them? They're giving it to them because they have proven street cred on strategizing, on drafting, on having entire teams work with you, on having access to the thin elite council, right? When you're able to tick all those boxes and organize it so well, they deserve to be there, and it's not new. From the 60s or 70s, from Dadachand ji onwards, you've had entire generations of solicitors who have been doing very, very well and doing at the top level. I think we could take a leaf out of the Bombay Solicitors book, which is what we should go back to. In Bombay, it may surprise you, but many solicitors don't even wear the band. They wear ties and go to court because their job is not to argue. They are just coming there to tell their instruct their counsel what to do. In some courts, they have chairs with their backs to the judge. They are looking at the counsel. They have nothing to do with that guy sitting there who is dispensing justice. They are telling him that, yes, this is what I will do. These are the papers, blah, blah, blah. They argue that way, right? That is what the solicitor is. And it's a huge position. It's a position of great privilege. Just this morning, I was speaking to one of the AoRs and we were discussing the SCORA versus the SCBA. And I said, the Constitution of India refers only to one class of lawyers, which are the advocates on record. In Article 145, when rules of the court is to be made for recognizing who are the advocates before them, it's the advocates on record, yeah. I have no place. The non-AOR has absolutely no place. It's only the AOR. They're in a position of privilege. So we were discussing in the context of chambers and that Delhi High Court issuing notice on generational chambers. And I said, I don't think seniors deserve to have chambers. They don't need chambers. It's young lawyers, AORs and non-AORs who need chambers. They are the ones. We missed out on getting chambers when we were young. We would have liked that proximity and address of our own, things like that. Yeah. But digressing, but I think in my view, the average AOR is definitely in a better position than an average non-AOR.
I also want to understand the dynamics of counsel practice since you got independent up until you got designated as seniors. In terms of volume of work specifically, one wonders as to what does the path to a senior designation look like? And one question that one asks oneself is, how many matters should I be doing every day, right? What did senior counsels early days look like? Did they have 3 matters every day, 1 matter every day, 2 matters a week? Is it that the volume grows consistently? Is it that you would have some good years, some bad years, and then suddenly this one year when everybody started recognizing you? Do you recall having moments when you felt that maybe I don't have enough work, or moments when, man, where did this work come from?
So, when I was with Mr. Venugopal and we were in court, most of the Supreme Court judges who were sitting judges then knew us because we were assisting Mr. Venugopal for no other reason. So, we had a lot of credibility and presence before those judges. But once you go independent, you may not necessarily get Supreme Court work, right? So you go to a different forum and then you come back to Supreme Court one fine day and find the faces have all changed. They don't know you. They're like, who's she? Yeah. Where is she come from? So it's very scary, but that's the truth. Eventually the institution, the judges designate you, whether it's High Court or Supreme Court. So when you go independent, it's really the last couple of years before you apply, which is really relevant in terms of your court presence, right? You could be present and then be absent and then come back again and apply. And that's what pretty much happened to me in 2019 when Gopal applied. I didn't apply to Supreme Court because by then I had work in other courts and I had not come to Supreme Court in a long time. I mean, I had a few matters here and there, but nothing which gave me the sort of confidence I believe that I can apply at that point of time. I mean, I've senior to him by 3 years. I've registered practice before him, enrolled in the bar before him. But I didn't have the confidence at that stage to apply to the Supreme Court because I'm like, I don't think any of these judges know me. Because eventually when that committee is going to sit and decide, they're going to say, who's this girl? She's not been appearing before us, in the
That's
recent
what you
past.
thought.
I mean, that's what I believe because, the faces change. That's the thing about Supreme Court. Every 6 years, it's like you have a new set of judges in front of you. They come, they go. So it's those last 2 years before you are set to apply, which is critical. And that's when you need maximum presence before these various courts. Of course, when you apply, you'll have to tell them how many published judgments, you have reported judgments you have, so on and so forth. And that, if you have a reasonably decent practice, even across forum, it's fine. That's good enough to give you, and articles you've written, different things. So all that definitely goes in. But before you apply, that last year or two is very critical. How often have you appeared before that particular forum, before the various judges in that forum? And then when you apply, they remember you. So pretty much those 2 years, I would say, is important. And yes, I had many days when I didn't have work, when I started off going independent. So when I chose not to file, my work drastically dropped, right? It just suddenly dropped because...
And income?
Income, of course, will drop suitably. 100% it dropped at that point of time. Because, and I think...
When you say 100%, it shouldn't be 100% income became zero.
For sure my income dropped is what I meant, right? So, so for sure my income dropped. But then I think I chose it well, if I can say so, because I had 2 kids by then. By the time I decided I'm going to not file. So I said, okay, if I get those cases either to be a junior counsel in Supreme Court or argue, it's fine, I'll go, otherwise not. The rest of the time I was happy with my kids. I could spend time with my kids. So I said, okay, this is a time I will go through. It's a tough time. Whenever I make this choice, this is going to happen. I will make it when I have my kids who are little. So that if I didn't have work, I was busy at home. So I didn't really miss coming to court. I didn't really feel that, oh my God, I don't have work because I was busy all the time. I had kids, I had something going on in my life all the time that I didn't miss coming to court. But yes, whenever I had work, I would go. And so there were times when that happened, and very slowly, gradually, it kept building up across different forums. And in the last few years, before I was designated, it just happened that I did one matter for a particular solicitor, and then suddenly I got multiple matters in Supreme Court. I don't even know. If you were to ask me what changed, I don't know what changed. I don't know what happened, why I was picked out suddenly to be given a matter to argue, why that worked out well for me. I really don't know. But yes, just being present and visible helps. That's what I do.
So your view?
If you want my frank answer on the senior designation imbroglio, I feel that even though I was the beneficiary of the first instance of the Indra Sawhney judgment, Indra Jai Singh judgment, and the senior designations there, I think it's shown itself to be a system that doesn't work. This new so-called format of semi-accountable and semi-transparent, if at all, kind of system of designations for a number of reasons. One, way more undeserving people have been designated than deserving people. And that's caused a lot of heartburn at the bar, not only of the Supreme Court, but also of the Delhi High Court and elsewhere. Many deserving people have been overlooked in the Supreme Court, mainly in the Delhi High Court, elsewhere. Earlier, we used to have maybe a couple of designations every alternate year, etc. in the Supreme Court. To have 30, 150, it's bizarre. I mean, we always looked at people who had very strong practices and said, we are going to designate them. Not because the person has been on a government panel for 20 years. I mean, that's not the way. It's the way you deport yourself as an advocate and how you assist the court and how fair you are with the court. And you have an established street cred where your peers are looking at you. Not this revolving door of judges who come and go, who have perhaps seen you for that ephemeral 2 years. I was mentioning to a senior advocate friend of mine in the Delhi High Court that it's so much easier to become a designated senior in a high court because those judges have not only been your peers, they've been advocates in the court with you. They've also been there for at least 10 years on average, each of them, right? Our guys in the Supreme Court and the ladies, they've just come, and you have to establish yourself from scratch all over. You may have argued 5 constitution bench matters before the top judges, and then suddenly after 2 years, they're all gone. So a new bunch of judges, and you have to start from scratch trying to establish yourself because many of them have no clue who you are, right? In fact, we had a Chief Justice of India who had no clue about Justice Lalit's father who appeared before.
I remember.
Right? So, I mean, they don't know, and you don't blame them. But should they be the adjudicator of your ability? I'm not so sure. I think they're selecting themselves. That's good enough. The senior designation should ideally be done by the people at the bar. They should at least have a much larger say than they have at the moment, because then you know who are the really perhaps deserving ones, etc. Many of these things are meaningless. I've seen, like when Hari said in 2019, she felt, and she's always been one of those people who have perhaps a much lower opinion of herself than she deserves to have. There are people who have inflated opinions of themselves, who had like 1 appearance in 3 years, who applied and got designated in my round. So I saw that happen, and I was thinking, what is happening? What is this upside down world where people who have absolutely no presence of face value because one judge likes them becomes a senior villain? So I think it's a system which is creaky, and unless there's some repairing done at the earliest, you're going to have this clamor for it. And I think there are very wise AOR friends of mine who I know who are very happy being AORs. They take pride in being good solicitors, who are very content not applying for designation and having their practice disappear overnight, right? Because they are good at that. Imagine if the situation was reversed. Imagine if I were a senior advocate and it was one step up for me to become an AOR. I would never apply, because I know the minute I go there, I'm going to be a complete flop. And then I have neither this nor that. So I've seen that happen. We've seen that happen with the people who are being designated. So I think while it's all okay to say, okay, this is the path, I think the destination for many people should not be senior designation. The destination should be, and I've said this before, for me, the destination was this: being a lawyer practicing court, getting to argue cases, crunching points of law. That's a great destination. Why aren't we looking at that as the destination? The destination is not to charge 1 crore for an outstation matter or to, get a senior flap on your gown. I don't think that should be a destination at all.
Yeah. Just to circle back to the volume question also.
Yeah.
Did you feel while moving through the years that your volume is fluctuating, going up and down, or you saw a consistent rise? Like you mentioned that the last 2 years were years when your Supreme Court case volume was larger.
Yes.
But otherwise, across forums, because your practice was across fora, did you feel that your engagement as a counsel
all the time fluctuated? It fluctuated all the time. Like there were days when one wouldn't go to court, and I remember, like, if I were to go and meet a friend at Khan Market for lunch because I didn't have case, I would wear white and black and go, because I was so ashamed that, oh my God, people think I'm in Khan Market, I'm in colored clothes. So even when I had no cases, I would wear black and white and go to Khan Market for lunch. Of course, now I don't do it. But I remember consciously choosing my black and white avatar and going, pretending that, oh, I'm just coming from High Court or something, because not cool to say, I had no work today. But it does fluctuate. It does happen. There are days on which you don't have court, and it takes a long time to get used to it. That it's okay to have those days as well.
Yeah.
And to learn to treasure it, and to have a life beyond the law.
Yeah. For me, it fluctuated initially, and then it increased. And once I got designated, there was a little bit of a dip, because there's a huge span who are paying you because you are a non-senior.
Yeah.
But when you're a senior and your fees go up, then there's going to be that. It was a slight dip. And then I've seen it keeps going up, and then I revise my fees and that goes down. Revise my fees, go down. Which is what KKB did in the late 80s himself, infamously, because he, as everybody says, is the man who's raised this bar in a huge way for fees. Mine's not like that, but I because the workload becomes too much and I don't want to be missing matters. And it's not because I want to make the fees on that. Quite often, if I see a smart briefing counsel on a matter, I don't want them to know this, but it's better that I tell the truth. If I see a smart briefing counsel on a matter, and there is another matter which I'm briefed on where they really need me, there's a good chance that I may miss this, the one where the smart briefing counsel is there, so that because I know it will be handled, it will be taken care of. Here, there's nobody else to hold it, so I'll possibly do this. So I want to reduce the chances of me missing matters. So which is why I revise. I don't want to do 17, 18 matters. It gives me no pleasure.
He also goes to all his unpaid matters over paid matters.
Yeah. Sometimes,
so that's what we always joke about.
That's
There's a paid matter and unpaid matter. He makes it to the unpaid matter and he gives up the paid matter. So all his friends also pull his leg about it.
Yeah.
Not as badly as Gaurav Agarwal though. Gaurav Agarwal makes beelines for the pro bono matters.
And so your general sense is that volume will always fluctuate.
Yes.
And that there will come a time when, of course, the volume becomes either consistent or consistently decent.
Yes. Consistently decent.
There will be days.
Consistently decent.
How many years are we talking? So if we are to pitch in, the reason I ask this is because now I am 31, for instance, and I know many seniors of mine who would be 35, 36, we're looking around, right? And who know that there's somebody who got designated at the age of 41, right? Maybe, or 42 or 45 or whatever. And then they're looking at themselves and being like, I don't feel like I'm on the track to be I don't get briefed left, right and center, right? As I should be for the next 5 years, for the judges to know me like I am some star. Like part of it is answered because you said like in the Supreme Court, for instance, it's really the last 2 years.
Yes.
But that may be a function of what you said, that the judges are there for such less time. What about like other courts? Like how does it, how does a 35-year-old or a 37-year-old, 38-year-old think about this problem? That should you be thinking about what is happening at the moment, or you still have time, or don't?
I don't think you should think ahead, like I said, about the designation. Okay. Before this system came in, I'll tell you, I was having a substantial volume of matters which I was doing on an annual basis when I was in my late 30s. And I asked Mr. Raju Ramchandran, who is my guiding light for decisions like this. And I asked him, so what do you think I should do? He said, wait, don't rush into it. And I think it was a wise thing. I mean, if I had got designated maybe 2-3 years earlier, I'm not so sure I would have either the wisdom or the maturity or even the entrustment from solicitors to give me work like the way they did later.
Why?
Because I don't think I would have had that wisdom, right? When you're working on matters, you know, when you're strategizing and thinking about things, where you do it with calm reflection, and it comes with time and little more experience. I do feel that there was a substantial shift internally between those periods, right? I think it's a personal choice that people make, but I think it's also a factor of how your practice is progressing, and it's so unique for each person. Her practice was largely commercial and civil. She's been spending the last 6 months sitting there and getting people out on bail, quashing murder, etc. So it can suddenly veer towards left field, and you have no clue. Absolutely. And you have to start handling that. Yeah. So for me, I was not doing much commercial stuff. I was doing constitutional, civil, and the occasional criminal stuff that came my way. And then a lot of the IBC stuff started coming in that period that I'm talking about. And it was an entirely new area, and I was looking at the code and learning it from beginning. And then that entrustment which I was talking about came when I was a non-senior for a while. Yeah. And I feel that if I had been designated earlier, that entrustment would not have come. They're not going to risk it. They would have made me a fifth counsel on some brief which I didn't want. So I feel it's a factum when you are in that position, when like your friends you're talking about who are in the mid-30s, if you're getting the volumes, really does the flap matter? If you're getting the volumes. If you're not getting the volumes, then forget the flap for a while. Get the volumes. Once you have the volumes, right, it's meaningless that flap coming. Because the flap comes, if you don't increase your fees, it's going to be the same matters, the same volume that's going to go on after that. If you're going to increase the fees, be a little wise about how much you increase it. So it's not exponential and people say, I used to pay, we're not going to brief you. So that's a call you have to take. But I feel that you should have, as a senior counsel, I think people look too often at the flap without looking at what that flap brings with it.
Yeah.
And for me, the big responsibility that I carry personally, and I know she does as well, which we've got from KKV, is one, the court is trusting you completely, right? So you have to be factually right on what you're saying or be cautious about what you're committing yourself to. The second, you have to bring something new to the table. There should be some difference between a non-senior being briefed and a senior being briefed. The difference is that when they come and brief you, you don't say, Acha, this page number, Acha, give me 2 case law, Acha, give me a para number. Yeah, they can do it. Why are you doing it? You are the senior for a reason, because you're giving them a different angle. You're asking them uncomfortable questions which the judge is going to ask you tomorrow. Yeah. That's your job. That's what you have to do. You have to try and ensure that everything is in place. Where's that direct? Where are the other sections you haven't culled out and put in the appendix? All that is your job. Yeah. Now, if you are capable of doing all of that, and since you're a senior counsel not for civil or commercial or criminal, and you therefore have, in my view, a volume of work which is across the field, across different disciplines, then you think you are close to the finished product for you to go ahead and apply. If you don't feel that about yourself, you can be a non-self-aware designated senior counsel who will have a average practice, if that is what you want.
Got it.
I think from what I've seen now, the last few years, most courts say 20 years, right? It's almost like an unwritten or a written rule in many cases. So for your friends who are concerned, what I would say is, for the first 15 years, just do whatever you get. Don't focus on flap, no flap, etc. Because for 15 years, anyway, nothing is coming your way, right? So do the best, whatever you get, and work very hard for the first 15 years. After that, if you ask yourself 2 things. A, do I want to stop filing? Do I want to argue? Secondly, and this is again, like Gopal mentioned, many people are not self-aware. Everybody believes, I want to be counsel, I want to be counsel, I want to be counsel. But many don't realize that their practice is going to fall, right? And that it may never go up, right? So are you ready for this? That's an important question. Who's your source of work? Are people really going to entrust matters to you to argue? Or are you going to be having a filing office on the side and pretending to be a counsel? Right? Because that's not okay. That's not allowed and that's not okay at all. So self-awareness is important, but unfortunately lacking in many cases. First 15 to 16 years, do your job. But if you're focused that, no, I want to be a counsel, then I would recommend that whoever these people are, that in the last 2 or 3 years, stop filing. Stop filing and only practice as a junior counsel and counsel otherwise in matters you get, and see how it is going, right? Have a sense of, is your practice increasing? Are people really going to come in and, entrust matters to you to argue? Try and get panel work, maybe a legal aid panel, this panel, whatever it is, whatever matters you get, argue those matters. See how it is going. See if you are suited to arguing. Are you able to handle the pressure? Are people coming to brief you? Spend 2-3 years doing it, right? And then if it's going in the right direction, then by all means apply whenever the doors open, right? But have that period of 2 to 3 years where you actually actively stop filing. Do not file till the last date. And after you're designated, don't scamper around trying to give away all your filed matters to people and then realizing, waiting for people to brief you. It's not going to happen. If you're clear, then like an investment, you have to give up on that practice at least a few years before you apply for designation. First 15 years, I would say, just work. Don't bother.
I want to add one small thing. It may sound deeply philosophical and less practical than what I think your viewers are looking at. When you practice in the Supreme Court, particularly, you are in a melting pot of ideas and a place that reflects all of India. It's a huge reward in itself, which you only realize with time. You have a cousin who has a car accident in Mizoram, right? You just have to call your Mizoram buddy, hey, who's the standing counsel? Find out. That person will help out, do something. It's happened with us on numerous occasions because we are all part of that one bar, that one family. The rewards of being in a congregational profession is something that is severely underestimated. We look at it as if we are machines who are doing a law job where there's this mysterious flap, right, that everybody wants. Look at what is there on this journey. Look at the fact that you can find love like I did in this profession, within it. You can find friendships forever in this profession, huge bonds, right? Shared interests like sport or music or dance or all these avenues which you get. Eye-opening as far as traveling the country, understanding cuisines, understanding so many different things. Every time we do a case and we are learning something, Hari will tell you about 20 minutes about magic mushrooms, right? And different things in this country which are actually interesting and fascinating, and you're learning this on a daily basis. That fascinating journey is irreplaceable. Yeah, I mean, we are always thinking about this gown. I would be very happy if the Supreme Court did away with the senior gown business and we just were advocates, right? Then all those who deserve to get will get, those who don't deserve to get won't get orders. You'll figure it out for yourself. We are spending way too much time, I'm telling you. Maybe in some distorted fashion, this Indira Jai Singh judgment is good because now people think that it's a ridiculous system where anybody can get designated. Maybe it's time for us to pause, like we did during COVID. Look at the journey and see what all you have, and be thankful for that journey that you're on.
Yeah, well, that's wonderful. And just to try and understand one more aspect of your journeys, both of your journeys, because you started living together at some point. When did you start to have an office? And I am asking because I know you had the same office. When did you decide that now is the time that we should get an office space, whether it is on rent or you're purchasing it or whatever it is? Was it immediately after one of you went independent?
When she went independent, she got an office, 2 offices in fact. The first,
I was sharing with friends.
Yeah,
who are corporate lawyers. I was sharing an office with them for a couple of years. Then I stopped and then I worked out of home.
You can name them, it's no secret.
Yeah, no, I mean, Anuradha and Piyush, who now run Claris Law.
Yeah.
So I used to share office space with Anu and Piyush. They're my seniors from college and very, very dear friends. So I used to share office space with them.
First in Hoskas and
then Safdarjung Enclave. Then after that, when I had kids, I gave up that office space because I was more happy working out of home and just go to home.
Where was home?
Vasant Kunj. We stayed in Vasant Kunj. We were on rent in Vasant Kunj for the longest time till we bought our own place in Vasant Kunj. And it's only when Gopal also went independent in 2012, we actually took an office on rent.
Remember 6 months? We would ask people to meet us at the Grand in Vasant Kunj.
Oh yeah, I completely forgot.
In the reception area. And we would catch this luxurious place full with Italian marble, as the brokers in Delhi will tell you. And we were sitting there and clients were like wondering, what a weird thing, why are we meeting this guy here?
Yeah.
And
it was just close to my house.
Yeah. It was close to home. So we would meet there. Then eventually we took another Vasant Kunj flat on rent, which is where I think you came for the first time to intern.
Yes.
And we had one junior.
Yes.
One was, our first junior there was Vikramaditya, and then the spectacular Zishan. For those who don't know Zishan Devan, the greatest junior the world has ever had, as he himself proclaims, with whom Shrutanjaya interned for the first time. And that was also on rent, and we were staying at home. And then because of 3 kids, we took that office space because we were both doing counsel practice, right? So you didn't really have to interact that much with clients. And impress them and stuff. We just had the lawyers who would come, who knew us, who would brief us and stuff. And that was for a while until we found Vasant Kunj, the house is too small. So we shifted to Vasant Vihar on rent. And then we got this place in Vasant Vihar down the road on rent as well. So, I mean, these are the kind of hurdles. I mean, we're both senior counsel of the Supreme Court. We're both on rent in our house and in our office.
Yeah.
So when people talk about, this is something I mentioned a few weeks ago in some other interview, when people talk about first generation, second generation, if I had to come from some other city and set up here and be close to 50 years of age and still be renting my office and my house, it's a question mark you have to put to yourself about, how well you're doing in the profession. But that's the reality. That's how things are.
Yeah.
And your first junior also was followed close upon the heels of when you took your first office, or that was also significantly after that?
No. I think we had an office really once we realized that, we're going to take on
he
a
came
junior.
in on 13, 14?
Yeah,
14
around the
maybe?
same time.
Yeah, just a
Very
little later,
contemporaneous. I think we
Yeah,
have planned
close to.
office because we knew that we need, we could work out of anywhere.
Yeah.
I had my baby and I would be feeding my baby and I would be drafting an SLP.
Yeah.
Pretty much that was my life for the longest time.
Hari's actually gone into a conference with the senior counsel.
Yeah.
And then the baby was in the car crying. So she went out, got the baby, sat there with the baby, soothing the baby, and continued.
The senior counsel was very, very, very sweet.
These are
Justice
challenges.
Shetty.
Yeah.
He was there and he didn't bat an eye when I walked back and I said, sir, 1 minute, because my driver was calling non-stop saying, Bacha ro raha hai. So I went out, I said, sir, 1 minute. I brought my little girl. I sat, I remember giving her a specific relief act which was ripping to pieces. So I just completely ignored her because she's sitting on my lap, very happy, tearing it around. And then I was busy, having my conference, and it went really well. And I've taken my daughter to Mr. Venugopal's office when I briefed him, to Mr. Justice Vishwanathan's when he was a senior. When I used to brief him, his house was below his office. So his wife, Jess, used to always call me and say, I believe you have a conference, please bring your children. She would babysit my kids with my maid when I would go and, do my... So I think a lot of people in this profession have been very encouraging and helpful and stuff. So I think that's when we realized we needed a structure.
People have to be thankful when you have cousins and uncles and parents and grandparents in the city who can give you that support structure.
Yeah.
Right? You have to understand your own benefits before you leap out saying, look, I'm a first generation lawyer. I don't want to hear anybody from Delhi telling me I'm a first generation lawyer. I have no patience for it.
Yeah, we have to do everything by ourselves, like whether it's renting, whether it's making our friends. We don't have family who live here, right? Whom we can just leave our child with and stuff. But like Gopal mentioned, it's an entire family in court.
Yeah.
So I have so many people in court. If I reach out, I used to bring my daughter before the crash in Supreme Court even happened. I used to bring her to the car park and I used to wait with her. My maid was in the car with me. And the matter reached and somebody would call me, I would go up to do my case. But I had so many of my friends, Pooja, Mohana, all would go down and say, oh, your daughter's in the car. They would come down and play with my daughter when I would go up and do a case.
Yeah.
So one always felt that there were enough people you could fall back on. And that's something very special about this profession. And that's why people are important.
Yeah. So just before we conclude the interview, I also want to ask you about you having juniors. And you mentioned that the first one was around 13, 14. But today, as a senior counsel, when you look at hiring juniors, and this is intended to cater to those people who want to apply to a senior office, what are you looking for apart from the experience requirements that you may have? What are the qualities that you're looking for in a junior today, given your practice as it is today? And what do you think are the usually lacking qualities that the good juniors have today?
I think two things. I mean, experience, though you said, yes, we need it. I want to say it because we get applications regularly from freshers. And I think they're making a huge mistake by applying to a council office. We are not a filing office. We don't do any in-house filing, drafting,
you didn't
nothing.
Tell me this when I came to
right. You, in fact, we asked you to join us. If you remember, when Gopal went to NLU Delhi for that moot, he was so impressed with how you, prepped everybody on the moot court problem and stuff like that.
Just to the camera. So NLU Delhi was hosting the Oxford Prize Media Moot. And I had gone as one of the judges. And there was this young man who came out to inform the judges what the problem was about. He didn't have a scratch of paper with him. For 20 minutes, he told us fact after fact after fact, and then said, these are the points which will be argued. This is what the applicants will say. This is what the respondents will say. And these are the points on which you can question them. And then he stopped. And I was like, who is this kid? Of course, thankfully, I've interacted with him much after that to know that it's only been downhill for Shrutanjaya since his college days. But I said, Hari, we have to take this guy.
So he judged the semi-finals and I was going to judge the finals. So he came and said, don't bother reading that problem. You'll meet Shrutanjaya at NLU Delhi who will tell you everything about the problem. Yeah. And then I met Shrutanjaya and he is fantastic. And so that's important, Shrutanjaya. I think what we need is, you are really literally an aberration of a person we took as a fresher and worked out well for you, worked out well for us. But in most cases, because we also permit all our juniors to do work of their own, right? Independent.
Yeah.
So it's a good thing if they have filing experience and they've learned and then they come, because then they can build their practice and eventually branch out and set up their own office, right? And they don't have to go and relearn from somewhere else. So it is important to have at least 3 to 4 years of practice. But other than that, what we need is a person who is like simple, what Mr. Venugopal told us. Are you ready to stand up and argue the matter yourself? Is that your level of preparation?
Yeah.
You've got fully in depth. You've read you have to have the ability to read every page, every word, and read the Bare Act, read everything. Not just Googled a few things on India Kanun or SEC online, got some judgment, says, I know this issue. No. Have you read it? That integrity in research and to go in depth into a matter and to work it up fully is, for us, the most important thing. Like, for example, Mr. Venugopal always used to tell us, many times, he'd say, look, you have to tell me even the drawbacks in our case. Because I don't want to be taken by surprise by the judge tomorrow when the other side suddenly says, no, but you see page 433, you've made an admission to the contrary. So you should know your brief thoroughly, your facts thoroughly, then you should know your law thoroughly, to an extent at least. And you should be able to tell us, this is your positives, these are your negatives of your case. And that's very important. And it's only when we have faith to that extent that, if I've given the brief to say X or Y or Z and they know everything in the matter. Of course, we read our own files as well, right? But it's always good to have one more eye on the ball. And to have somebody, a colleague of yours who's assisting you, who's read everything. So we need a person who will read everything, not just read
sincere.
Synopsis and be sincere.
Sincerity, I think, is the main thing, because it's something. I think it's a generational thing. When we always say, look at this new generation, look, they're not doing A or B or C or whatever. And now with this social media and this AI nonsense, the reliance on that, we can't even parse. We don't have time or patience to figure out, did you use AI for this, etc. But I'm just saying, there can't be shortcuts. There has to be honesty. Honesty is the most important thing. If you haven't read, just tell me you haven't read. Don't prevaricate. Don't be indirect with me. Also, understand once again, and this is important, that judges nowadays, I'm sure Hari will agree, are much more willing to listen to juniors. Right? And insist that they argue, which is a good thing. It's a great thing for the profession, right? They will tell you that, no, don't forget about Mr. Sankaranarayanan, you argue. And which is great, then argue. Now, I have had our juniors, in fact, be in positions like that. And I'm happy to say that each time they've acquitted themselves well enough, that they've known that brief, they've known 3 points to say. And what I love about our chamber is that all the other juniors come and tell me, so-and-so had an opportunity to argue today and he did a great job. I love that. I love hearing that, because you're looking out for each other and it matters. If you were a fresher there, the chance of you being able to acquit yourself will be that much harder. And when you're that one who is not getting that praise from the others because you haven't been able to do it, they just keep quiet about it, it's going to fester. It's going to be there inside you. So for your own sake, it's best that you not be a fresher in this situation. The other is, again, a real life scenario where the others may say, sir, I won't be there on Wednesday. I have a personal matter of mine. Or there's a client of mine, I'll take an hour, I'll just meet them outside. The fresher is sitting there without getting that work and wondering, everybody else is getting, I'm not getting. Why? Because you're a fresher, nobody knows who you are, where you're from, what you're doing, right? So it may not matter to you at all, which is great. But ideal, therefore, not to have a fresher in that kind of situation. Better that somebody who has a little bit of street cred, who has understood how the system works and who has moved on from there, is I think, better for the system.
The other thing I want, and both of us want rather, is a good positive personality. For example, like he said, you should not be an insecure person, right? So I think when we are interviewing candidates, we're also trying to judge in the limited time we have, whether this person is a good fit for the office. Because one junior who's over ambitious or who is trying to pull some toxic can ruin the entire office atmosphere. And you don't want that,
Yeah.
right? You have to be ambitious to do well, but you should never be over ambitious to harm or upset or irritate somebody.
Correct.
And that is very, very important. Everybody will, the cake is large enough for everybody to share,
Yeah.
right? In office and eventually in the profession.
Yeah.
And you need people who are like that. So if you find that somebody is being ultra aggressive or overly ambitious, those are not people which, for us, I don't think we'd be happy to have somebody like that in office. No, we
Yeah.
won't be happy, because right now, touch wood, we've been so fortunate. Everyone has been lovely with each other. In fact, all the interns who come and work
Everyone.
with us.
I hate, again for the record, I hate all the interns, because when they come in on their last day and I say, how was the internship and all, they say it's fantastic. The juniors are so great. Always gushing about the juniors and how much interaction and work and time they spend with the interns. Not one bloody word about me or about her, but mainly about me.
Yeah, but
nothing about me.
That's what we love also. Actually, the fact is that all of them, everybody praises them, including you. You know how many times, how many interns, even now we meet in court, they say, ma'am, how is Shrutanjaya sir?
Yes,
because, because you guys have been fabulous with interns, with each other. And that is what matters. That the journey, like Gopal mentioned, is what important. I mean, you must positively impact lives as you grow. Right? There's no point in you growing and you've not had any positive impact on anybody else.
Correct.
And like any other profession, we all congregate in the same place. So when you take people along with you, makes for a happier place.
Yeah.
No, and we've seen this, growing up, we've seen other chambers which have not had that sense of security and that sense of kindness and warmth. And we've seen the consequences of what it has been for people who have emerged from those chambers.
Yeah.
Right? Where the senior himself has been so insecure as to take away matters from his own junior when his junior got marked and things like that. Yeah. So, I mean, those have been horrible and toxic, and it's sad for those people. Then when people ask me, so who should we apply to, etc., I said, think of it like you're going to a college. Look at the alumni.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If the people who have come out of that office have done well, are secure, are happy with what they're doing, etc., then that is a good office. Forget about how well that lawyer is doing as a senior counsel. That is irrelevant.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. That is relevant only for his client.
Yeah.
It's not relevant to you as a chamber junior. Just because a lawyer is great and successful doesn't mean he's a good chamber head.
Yeah.
A chamber head is a completely different thing.
I know I promised we'll conclude, but there's one more question. It just struck me that I think practicing in Delhi is getting, particularly in the Supreme Court, but I'm sure also in other courts, getting more and more harder in some sense, because number of people doing law increasing, one, and two, because Delhi is Delhi and air pollution is not receding. Do you think, and do you sometimes get the feeling that, it's just, where do you think this is going? Do you think enough people care about the problem? Of course, you can't stop lawyers from coming in. That's an infrastructure issue that will solve in time. But do you think it's an irritation factor in people's lives? And in your circles, do people talk about it? Do people...
What?
Pollution.
Both issues.
No, I don't.
Both infrastructure and pollution. Both infrastructure, which can't handle so many people in the Supreme Court, because I hear a lot of chatter about block the interns or maybe juniors also. And air pollution, both, because these are factors that prevent you from stepping out of your house and landing up in court, or cause an irritation factor even if they don't prevent you. Is there conversation about this issue in your circles, and have you ever considered doing it online because the pollution is too much, or other things? I don't know.
I think he wants to leave Delhi because it's of pollution.
10 years.
That's a little
She made a promise to me. She made a promise to me that you try and do something about air pollution. When I raised this issue in 2013, right? When 2015, when our baby was 6 months old. And she said, you do something about it. We'll see if in 2 years this problem has not gone, then we'll leave Delhi. She lied shamelessly. So I did what I could. I helped co-found an organization. We raised advocacy, etc. Filed a petition in my son's name along with 2 other lawyer friends of ours. And it didn't matter. No matter what I did, she loves this city and she wants to be here. Yes, conversations have started, but it's usually seasonal conversations. This year, I feel it's not just seasonal. Maybe there'll be a little more of it post into the new year, and there'll be conversations around it. I don't see this problem addressing itself. I don't think there is political will around it. I don't think, very honestly, this is my personal view, I don't think until you have judges of the I think the spine and the will that Justice Kirpal and Justice Kuldeep Singh had to pass those tough orders in the late 90s and early 2000s, until you have that, this problem is not going to be addressed. That's what I feel. That's on this issue. On the other issue of the crowding in the infrastructure, I don't know whether there is a solution for it except to improve our infrastructure. This is the highest court in the land. Every citizen in this country has a right to access the open court. That right has gone now. It doesn't exist, right? Unless you have a case listed on that day. You can't just walk in. Interns should be able to access it on all days. That's been reduced to 2 days a week. That's not ideal, but it's happened. I don't see a reason why we should reduce it and say that lawyers who have X number of years in the profession should come in, because I didn't, many others didn't, Vishwanathan himself didn't 20 years before me. So I don't feel those are not those as reasons because your infrastructure not able to handle it. We have a guarantee that fundamental rights cases will be heard by the Supreme Court under Article 32. That you put the curtain down on by saying, no, we are handling too many matters, go to the High Court. You can't say that. Technically, you can't say that because the Supreme Court has a guarantee. But these are small little inroads we have made because of the volumes we are having. In my view, what you should do is address the volume issue. With the government of India and the governments being the largest litigants in the country, you have to get rid of that. Enforce the national litigation policy. Reduce those numbers. That's where your solution should come from, right? And with reference to the number of lawyers in the Supreme Court, that's bound to happen. It's because you're doing a good job, yeah? You have enough cases. You have enough interesting stuff that is bringing people to it. You have possibly lots of law schools and not enough law firm jobs or company jobs or insurance jobs or judicial posts to be filled. So you're going to have lots of people who are going to come here, but that's also going to be a bit of a revolving door. It's not that the same 40,000 who come this year are going to remain. That 40,000 will become 3,000 because many will say, okay, can't handle it. Some would go independent early and realize they have to go to other courts or tribunals or other cities or get married or whatever else it is. So I don't think it's that much of a problem. Anyway, there's this majestic plan of reconstructing the Supreme Court over the next 5 years in 2 phases. So once they're done with that, there may be more space that will open up.
So that will be it. Thank you so much, sir and ma'am, for joining us. And thank you if you're still with us for watching. Do like, share, subscribe, and do let us know if there are guests that you have in mind which you'd like us to call next time on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So much.
Thank you.
Thank you.